What is up, producers? Welcome to Low and Candy. I am Bohemoth, and today we're going to cover a very important topic, and that is which third-party plugins do you actually need to make good music? This is one that's very close to home to me, and I'm sure a lot of other producers. When you're newer and you're learning, you see all these amazing tools and VSTs, and the companies are so good at selling them that they're very easy to buy, thinking it's going to improve the quality of your music. And sometimes that's true. However, sometimes they're kind of unnecessary, and I think of them like toys. So, what I wanted to do is basically give you a rundown of 5 plugins that I could not live without, and then I'm going to give a list of a couple other plugins that I could honestly live without and I wish I hadn't spent the money on. Let's go. Before I hopped in, I wanted to mention I'm currently doing one-on-one mentorship lessons on AbletonLiveTeacher.com. Working with a mentor is the best way to get good quick at producing. You will for sure get better 5-10 times quicker than if you're trying to learn stuff on your own. You can't find answers. It's a struggle. I get it. I did it for years. So definitely check that out if you're interested. Also, I'm doing new videos almost every day. So toss me a like and subscribe. It helps a lot. Let's get into it. So when I started producing music 10 years ago or so, I was really sold on a lot of these plugins that look so exciting and they have all these cool sounds. And then what I started to learn as I was getting more into production and I was seeing, people on Twitch streams and people on YouTube videos and artists at my school icon. And what I was noticing is a lot of these artists who were, top EDM artists were not using really any external plugins at all. They were using pretty much all entirely Ableton Live stock plugins. And I was very surprised by this. I recall being on a couple of Jaws's Twitch live streams. And Jaws obviously is a phenomenal artist. Nobody's doubting that. And he was using probably at least 90% Ableton stock plugins. And this kept being kind of like a reoccurring theme as I would watch other producers who were experienced and high up in the industry produce. And almost all the time they would be using almost all Ableton plugins. And so at some point I kind of figured out that there was something to that. But it took me a long time to get there, to kind of come to that realization. And, there's so many artists that I've seen or worked with or been mentored by that kind of followed suit. John Casey, tons of Ableton Live stock stuff. Great Dane, again, I've seen him use pretty much all Ableton stock stuff and a bunch. So anyway, with that being said, I do think there are certain plugins that I don't believe I could get the same result with stock plugins with, and I'm going to cover those now. The first one, and I would recommend if you don't have any other plugins, this is kind of like my gun to head only plugin I would use if I could only choose one third party, and that is FABFILTER Pro Q3. Ableton does have a pretty impressive EQ, EQ8. It can mid-side. You can get pretty comprehensive with the curves. You cannot accomplish everything that you can accomplish in FABFILTER Pro Q. FABFILTER Pro Q3 is, in my opinion, the dopest EQ there is. It's user-friendly. It's a parametric EQ, but it also doubles as a dynamic EQ. To kind of take a look at it here, we can do stuff like we can grab a very, very particular frequency, a hair of a frequency, just like a hair of a frequency. And this is not something that you could do this high of a bell with EQ8 or any other stock Ableton plugins. Another thing is the dynamic EQ, which boosts or cuts frequencies as needed, which is pretty cool. And then you have things like this pre and post analyzing where you can actually sidechain frequencies to other tracks that also have a Pro Q3 on it. You can EQ match, you can grab a reference, but mostly it's just these moves like the dynamic EQing, the mid-side EQing, really makes this plugin phenomenal, and gun to head, this would be the #1 plugin that I would keep. With that being said, the entire FABFILTER bundle is actually fire, and that's one thing that I would recommend grabbing over anything. I'm not affiliated with FABFILTER. I wish I was, to be honest, but I'm not. All the FABFILTER plugins are fire, and most of them are not replaceable. Another one of theirs is Pro L. It's a limiter. Limiters do this thing where they color your sound, and having a bit like a Ableton stock limiter will really color your sound. I don't use Ableton stock limiters unless it's like a bass sound where I'm already clipping and there's already a lot of noise in there anyway. FabFilter Pro L is the GOAT. It has a very clean algorithm and it's got a lot of features. Same thing with Saturn, which is also part of the pack. And what Saturn is it's a multi-band saturation unit. And the cool part about this is you can grab very particular frequencies and you can chop it up as much as you want and saturate them, which really comes in handy. Same thing with their Pro MB plugin, multi-band compression, and the amount of control this gives you with where you want to compress and how and the presets and everything, absolutely phenomenal, cannot be replaced. If you're hopping into production and you can only buy one thing, buy the FabFilter bundle. Trust me, you'll thank me later. Number 2 on my list, and this is preference. This can be different depending on your style and what you like. For a synthesizer now, I would say SERUM. Now there's a caveat to this. You actually can get the same or very similar results from Ableton Operator. The reason that I'm putting SERUM on my list as number 2 is because it's very user-friendly. It's very easy to understand. They have some amazing presets. And really, of all the synthesizers I use, there's some insane comprehensive ones these days. Phase Plant, Vital. SERUM is just an all-time favorite, I think, as far as, especially in trap and bass music. Operator is actually extremely powerful, and I didn't know that until about a year ago. You can do a lot with Operator, but the unit of SERUM, with all the effects and everything and how simple it is, really, if you were to grab one synth and you're new to synthesis, I would grab SERUM. It's very user-friendly. So a lot of these newer synths like Phase Plant is just completely baffling. You look at it, you have no idea what's going on. SERUM is simple, it's easy to use, it's easy to learn, and it's a good foot in the door with synthesis. So for number 2, we're going to go with SERUM. Number 3 on my list for must-have plugins for me is Oak Sound Soothe. What Soothe does is it reduces resonant frequencies automatically. So all those high peaks you're getting and everything, it does all the heavy lifting for you, and it suppresses them and it tames them all on its own. Could you accomplish this with Ableton? Maybe. I don't know. Not like this. How easy it is and how much time it would save you anyway, it's an obvious choice to buy it. It's a little pricey. It's about $200, but with that being said, it's one that really saves me, and it really saves me in a project. Taming all those resonant frequencies is super beneficial, especially when you get to the mastering point, and this is a plugin that's just not really replaceable. Gullfoss is similar, it's a little different, but I'm going to put Soothe as number 3. Now number 4, this is a little bit of a cop-out because it's kind of more of a bundle. I'm going to go with IZOTOPE OZONE 10. Or 9, either or, they're both pretty similar. This mainly pertains to the mastering point of the track. You cannot get the mastering result with Ableton stock plugins as you can with OZONE 10. I don't care what anyone says. I don't believe it. You can get an amazing master with stock plugins, no question about it. But IZOTOPE OZONE 10, with all the units that it has in it, it has a dynamic EQ, a vintage limiter, an exciter, music rebalance. It has an imager, which in and of itself is absolutely fire. Regardless of what you do, go grab IZOTOPE imager. I believe it's free. Best imager on the market. Ozone has a vintage limiter. It's got a vintage compressor. All this might not mean a lot to you, but it's just a sound that you can really only get with Ozone. And all my best masters have gone through Ozone. No questions asked. Get Ozone if you're planning on mastering your tracks. Also with Ozone 10, the advanced one, it's actually got this automatic sound input feature where you can play your track and it'll suggest a master for you. Now, you usually have to tweak it and adjust it, but I've actually gotten some insane results with this. My last track, West Coast Money, it's out now. Check it out. I use the automatic mastering feature with Ozone 10. I spent about 15 minutes tweaking it and adjusting things, and it's fire. I was shocked. Most of the time with that automatic stuff, it's not one size fits all, so you get a lot of frequencies you don't want or sounds you don't want. This new algorithm is fire. I highly recommend it. Check it out. And the last one, number 5, for plugins that I could not get the same results with stock Ableton plugins is going to be IZOTOPE RX10 Audio Editor. Insane audio editor. There's just nothing like it in Ableton stock or really anywhere else. They are coming out with some pretty good ones, pretty good extraction sites. But IZOTOPE RX Editor, if you're like me and you like to remix and slurp vocals out of tracks and other elements, RX10 is really irreplaceable. It's a little pricey, but I highly recommend it. It's also good for if you work in audio, you have to edit audio. You can get like guitar clicks out. It's got so much stuff in it, and that's even the basic version. You don't even need the advanced. And there's just no way you can get that kind of audio editing power with the stock Ableton plugin. So those are my top 5 plugins that I cannot live without, and I cannot accomplish the same results in Ableton. The next thing we're going to talk about is plugins or bundles that I would not purchase again, that I spent a lot of money on and I've been disappointed in. And if I was talking to a 24-year-old producer, Bo, I would say, do not spend your money here. Go on a vacation or do something else or invest in something else. I'm going to spread a little bit of hate here. I'm going to open up my heart, let that hate out. The number one is Native Instruments anything. Native Instruments. I'm going to explain to you why. Native Instruments does have some impressive stuff. I'm not going to lie. Their marketing is very good. Anytime you see a video about anything Native Instruments, it really makes you want to buy it. They have their own NKS. They have their own keyboards, which I have here. So, you know, it's sitting right here. The thing about Native Instruments is, number one, none of their plugins or effects, I would say, are irreplaceable in any way. There's nothing that is so unique that you can't get it anywhere else. Their sample-based contact libraries are typically very overpriced unless you get like the whole bundle. If you get anything Native Instruments, like you get a Complete Control keyboard, you constantly have to run the NKS daemon in the background no matter what you're doing, or else when you open it up, it won't work. So that's one thing that you always have to have running in the background of your computer. It'll open it automatically. So if you're not even in a session, you have NKS running in the background. The next reason is because it will make your stuff crash. I have never had anything crash as much as a Native Instruments device. It's crashed my Ableton more times than I can count. Again, I truly believe that you can get the same results with sampling. There are some really good contact libraries, I won't lie. My favorite ones are actually the Output Bundle, fire. Those are good. Those are good for sure. Not irreplaceable, but those are really good libraries. So number one that I would not buy again, I would not buy anything Native Instruments. And some people might disagree with me. If you do, let me know in the chat. That's personal preference. I personally don't think that there's anything in there that's irreplaceable or really worth what you pay. Number 2 is going to be anything Universal Audio. Universal Audio is another one of those companies that they charge through the nose for their plugins. You will not believe how, like, some people spend thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of dollars in Universal Audio plugins. They're another one of those companies that are more than happy to collect your money, but they do not update their software. They don't update their hardware. They don't update their firmware. Myself and my cousin, who kind of taught me how to produce, both have UA interfaces, and they have been a literal nightmare to work with because of the software and the plugins. They were fine before Max Silicone came out, but since then, it's literally been a constant struggle and a constant fight to get them to work. My cousin has the X16. He spent over $2,000 on it, and he has not been able to get it to work. I had the same problem with my twin for probably a year. It would shut my computer down. It would literally shut my computer down and crash it numerous times a day. UA tried to gaslight me, and they said, no, it's your Mac. No, it's this. No, it's that. They did the same thing to my cousin. They're like, no, it's this. Check that. Check this. It is for sure the UAs. I will say UA is absolutely world-class. The interface sound amazing. They do have their own processing power, which is really great. But, you know, with the new technology and how fast all these new computers are, you don't really need that processing power there. And there are some interfaces that are just as good. And they can't lock you in with these plugins. So I gotta hate on UA. I'm sorry, UA. Your stuff sounds really good. I love my little twin, but it's given me a hell of issues, and any plugins associated with them, I've had a lot of problems with as well. So that's all I really have for now. Those are the major ones that come to mind. 5 plugins that I couldn't live without, and 5 plugins or bundles that I wouldn't recommend getting, or at least looking a little bit further into. I hope this helped you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.